It's 1837, and America's economy just collapsed because of land speculation and banking failures. Thousands of families are losing their homes and their jobs. While America is suffering, one powerful man seems unbothered. Instead of being worried about the economy, he casually starts writing checks for what would be $7.5 million today. He buys entire blocks of Manhattan while his neighbors are getting evicted. This man controlled 90% of America's fur trade, the first true monopoly in the country. He shipped hundreds of thousands of pounds of opium to China when it was illegal, then sold that opium to New Yorkers through newspaper advertisements. He got Congress to ban his foreign competitors from doing business. He locked 125 pieces of land in Midtown Manhattan into a family trust that made his descendants the landlords of New York for the next century. His family would build the Waldorf Astoria and control more of Manhattan than any other dynasty before or since. John Jacob Astor left behind a fortune that would easily top $100 billion today. That kind of money made his family the invisible rulers of Manhattan with land, leases, and influence that stretched across the city, an empire that lasted long after his death. Unlike others of his time who struck it rich, Astor did not scatter his assets. He locked them into a family trust in 1834. That trust held 125 pieces of land across the west side of Midtown, sites that any major developer would compete for. You could compare it to the way Blackstone or Bloomberg's real estate groups own valuable properties today. Except Astor dominated prime urban spaces while the rest of his competitors scrambled to pay rent. Johann Jacob Astor came from Waldorf in what is now Germany. He was of humble means, merely a butcher's son. His early life was simple, but he had ambition. He did not want to live a peasant's life like his forefathers. At 16, he left home and moved to London. His older brother worked with an uncle who made musical instruments, and Astor joined them. It was not glamorous, but it gave him a first look at life outside the village. He stayed only a few years before taking an even bigger leap. With the American Revolution settling in 1783, travel opened up again. Astor did not wait and boarded a ship heading west, so he carried a handful of flutes and roughly $25. He was in a foreign country with a new language and almost no money, but he went without hesitation. During that voyage, he learned about the fur trade. That single piece of information shaped his entire trajectory. By 1786, he had opened a small fur shop in New York City, and the timing was perfect. Demand was high, and competition was still manageable. Astor made his business moves aggressively. He built connections, forged deals, and expanded his reach. By 1808, he incorporated the American Fur Company in New York. Over time, it became the dominant force in the fur trade across the central and western United States. That step put him in the middle of a business known for big wins and sharp risks. Even as his wealth grew, he did not slow down. Astor kept expanding. He formed new groups like the Southwest Fur Company and tightened his grip in the Great Lakes region. That region connected the inland fur grounds to the ports that moved goods to major markets. St. Louis became one of the major hubs. From this city, his traders pushed deeper into the interior and worked with Native American companies who understood the land far better than outsiders. Those relationships kept his business alive. He also played the political side hard, making calls, building favors, and slowly pushing rivals out of his way. With influence secured, Astor could reach farther west. By 1811, one of his groups acquired a post at the mouth of the Columbia River, a place called Astoria. This was a strategic spot that sat where the river met the Pacific. It is a perfect hub for ships and trade routes that were still taking shape. Things were looking good until they were not. The War of 1812 erupted, and tension at Fort Astoria rose fast. The men there feared a British attack and sold the entire operation to a British-Canadian company for a pittance. Astor's Western vision collapsed. The British held that outpost for the next 40 years. The setback did not faze him. Astor responded in a way that showed his true style. He lobbied for political favors. He turned to Congress and pushed for laws that shut foreign traders out of U.S. territory to protect his own investments. In 1816, Congress passed a bill that barred non-citizens from owning fur businesses on American land. The same Canadian company that had taken Astoria earlier was now forced to give up its entire network below the Great Lakes. Astor claimed it for himself and returned to the industry with an even stronger hold. He kept lobbying Congress, and the government kept clearing the path for him. 6 years later, another ruling closed all trading posts run by foreign governments. It left Astor at the top with almost no rivals. He used his political capital to form a monopoly. At its peak, his company controlled close to 90% of the American fur market. It was the nation's first true monopoly. Astor's ambitions did not end with fur. He set his eyes on opium. China had banned opium, but the trade carried on through secret routes and fast deals at sea. Large ships waited offshore with massive shipments, and smaller boats took the cargo. Bribes solved most problems. Officials were paid to look away. Astor entered the market knowing the British had premium Indian opium locked down. In 1816, he brought in 10 tons of Turkish opium, a lower grade that dealers used to stretch their Indian supply. It sold fast. He shipped it to China in exchange for goods he could bring back and resell. The exact volume he handled remains murky. The safest estimate places his total in the hundreds of thousands of pounds. He even sold opium in New York and placed ads for it without hesitation. It did not bother him that the buyers were his own neighbors. By engaging in the opium trade, he fed a demand that grew into a crisis in China. This is the part that stains his legacy most. The money built his empire, but the fallout impacted millions of lives. China tightened regulations and enforcement in 1821. Astor began to back out, not from guilt, but from calculation. The risk shot up, and he had enough cash to pivot toward real estate instead. The timing could not have been better. He had money from the opium runs and was selling off his fur operations. The fur world felt unstable. Silk started to take over the hat market. Beaver populations were shrinking, and trappers pushed further into the mountains for fewer pelts. Costs rose and demand thinned. There were also complaints over how his company handled trade with native communities. Astor read the moment well. He used the money to buy large tracts of New York real estate. He believed the city would grow into a global center and acted on that confidence. The Panic of 1837 hit next. Property values fell hard. Families lost homes. Foreclosures spread so fast that state lawmakers granted a full year for people to catch up on payments. It was devastating. Most investors panicked. Astor did not. He kept buying through the chaos. While the market slipped, he secured roughly $224,000 worth of Manhattan land, worth $7.5 million today. Property prices collapsed, so he bought an insane amount during the collapse, not after. His strategy stayed consistent. He focused on land, not buildings. He leased plots to developers, and in many cases financed their projects. It was structured in a way that kept responsibility on the tenant. Taxes, repairs, upkeep, all of that never landed on Astor. When the leases ended, Astor held the advantage. Now he could raise rent if the area had grown more valuable, or he could buy whatever structure the tenant had built. Either choice increased his grip. Astor looked beyond land. He backed ventures like the Park Theater, the Astor House Hotel, and the Mohawk and Hudson Railroad. Around 1842, his fur company, the American Fur Company, went bankrupt and dissolved. He pushed all of his focus entirely on New York real estate. He built hundreds of stores and dwellings, and more than doubled the family fortune in the process. Some accused him of being a slumlord, but he tried to renovate the older tenements and improve the properties. Real estate gave the Astors a fortune and stability that fur or opium could never match. John Jacob Astor died in 1848. He left the bulk of his fortune to his son, William Backhouse Astor. But he also had a vision beyond wealth. He gave generously to charities and funded a free library in today's East Village with $400,000, roughly $10 million today. The Astor Library became one of New York's most respected institutions. By 1895, the Astor collection joined forces with the holdings of James Lennox, a wealthy New York philanthropist who spent decades collecting rare books and manuscripts, with additional support from former Governor Samuel Tilden. The three collections combined to form what is now known as the New York Public Library. As the 19th century drew to a close, some descendants of the Astor line started to gain influence across the Atlantic. William Waldorf Astor, John Jacob's great-grandson, served in the state legislature, and 3 years as the U.S. minister to Italy before moving to England in 1890. An American immigrant fortune had turned into a transatlantic dynasty. Another prominent descendant was John Jacob Astor IV. He expanded the family's Manhattan real estate empire, developing landmark hotels like the Waldorf Astoria and the St. Regis. His name became synonymous with prestige, but his story ended in tragedy. Astor IV died on the Titanic at age 47. He was the richest passenger aboard, with a fortune of $80 million at the time, over $200 billion today. His wealth went beyond real estate. He invested in inventions and emerging technologies, and even wrote a science fiction novel. The Astors are the definition of money elites. Their wealth stretched across real estate, hotels, and finance. Over time, inheritance splits, philanthropy, and shifting economies thinned their grip, but they never lost their mark in New York. Today, the name still carries weight, though the fortune has faded. Some descendants remain in the US, while others joined British aristocracy and maintain influence in culture and politics. Astor perfected generational control with land trusts. Modern billionaires follow the same strategies, using family offices and complex investment structures to keep wealth concentrated. The scale is much bigger now, but the strategies are eerily similar. The goal is identical: keep the family empire intact and pass influence down the line rather than see it disappear. Astor's fortune was vast, but the true power lay in his influence. He mastered timing, political influence, and indirect control. His fortune outlasted him, and his empire touched every street in New York. Today, billionaires may have fortunes, but very few have the foresight to leave systems that last. The Astors left a blueprint for American elites on how to remain relevant long after the dynasty's founder dies. If that blueprint raises questions about how wealth moves through generations, share it with someone building something meant to outlast them, and follow along for more stories about the families who turned strategy into legacy.